It's back to school week at our house, so I'm feeling very productive. The laundry is on. We've done our intro to back to homeschool, but we're going to be staggering it over the month to kind of ease in. And the fun thing is I get to figure out how am I going to do these lives 3 times a week while homeschooling. So it's added a fun element of challenge. I love connecting with you women in this group. If you aren't already in Joyful Confident Moms, talk about it later. But today, I'm going to talk to you, wherever you're catching this, on my personal profile page or in the Joyful Confident Moms group, about C-section. So if that's not for you, that's totally fine. You can stop here, move on, because I have a unique story. Some of you might have heard it. I am expecting baby number 11 this Christmas time, and it will be my 10th C-section. Because I had twins in there, it kind of threw off the numbers. So whenever people are like, medical staff will ask me, I have to fill out all these forms. How many C-sections you had? I have to stop and think, and I'm like, oh, okay, how many babies? And it's always like -1. It throws me off. I have had 10 C-sections. No, I will be having my 10th C-section for my 11th baby. And that's a super unique road. In fact, there's a medical term that I've learned called prima gravida that describes me. I'm a prima gravida. I think it means a combination of, like, anybody who's more medical than I am would know, like, it's because I'm over 40 and I've had a lot of kids. I like it though. It makes me sound like a prima donna. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my journey to encourage you, if you or someone close to you is looking at having more than 2, actually 3 C-sections, because when I was facing having more than 3 C-sections, backstory, we were originally planning on only having 3 or 4 kids. That was the plan from the start. But then there was a big change of heart, a whole 2x4 by God life experience that happened when our twins were just like 5 months old and our oldest was only 2 years old. So we had 3 under 3 when God really smacked us upside the head and challenged us to trust him in a whole other way than we were ever planning. And I had 2 C-sections at that point, because I failed to progress. It's my own story, whatever. The point is this: I was scared to have more than 3 C-sections. And I'm like, well, Lord, if we're going to trust you on this road of embracing the blessing of children, and if you continue to bless me with even 1 child every 2 years, which was kind of my average so far, that could be 12 kids by the time I'm 45. Well, I'm expecting baby number 11. And I have my own VBAC stories, and everyone is entitled to their own stories and opinions, and there's horror stories, there's inspirational stories. I'm in no way here to sort of shame or pressure anybody to follow what I did. I'm just going to share from my experience, because a lot of women wonder, and they ask me, can you even have more than 3 C-sections? Some people genuinely think it's like a number of like no-go, that after 3 C-sections, however you got there, you're there, it becomes medically either impossible, illegal, or actually downright dangerous. And I had to walk through that. There was a question I presented to my OBGYN because I had to know, if I'm going to trust God on a road of having a bunch of kids, and if they're all C-sections, if VBACs don't prove to be successful for me, try as I may, am I in danger? Because that's a scary prospect, right? So when people ask me like, hey, Tara, is it even possible to have more than 3 C-sections? I love to answer that question. I'll share with you what I've learned along the way. Of course, big caveat, I'm not a medical doctor. So always, always, always refer back to your own medical provider, because they know you best. They know your body. They know your background. I'm only giving some general medical advice from my own experience that may prove to be helpful to you or someone else that you know and love who is facing the prospect of potentially having more than 3 C-sections. So I go to my doctor when I'm pregnant with baby number 5, which would have been C-section number 4, because the twins throws off the numbers. And I just had a frank discussion with her. Honestly, she's the closest thing to a midwife. She's still with me today. I'm still with her. I'm like, you can't retire till I'm going to full menopause. And she's lovely. We're going to be doing our 11th child, 10th C-section with her this Christmas. And I travel an hour across the city to go to her. I could find doctors closer, and I'm sure there are other wonderful qualified OBGYNs, but she has a unique combination of incredible skill. Like she's actually like a teacher of other OBGYNs in the hospital group we're part of here in Ottawa, in Canada, and she has bedside manner. She has like social skills, which is rare to find, in my opinion, in the medical community. As a side note, sometimes you find like super mega nerds, which are great. A lot of people who are highly intelligent and into the sciences gravitate obviously towards medical fields. But to find somebody who also has personal skills, who will look you in the eye, who will smile rather than look at your chart, who'll take a moment to talk to you like a person, those people are worth their weight in gold. That's my OBGYN. So I kind of just starting to get to know her because she delivered baby number 4. Now I'm pregnant with baby number 5. And I'm like, ugh. We tried to VBAC, but that's another story for another day. And I asked her, I was like, can I even do this? And she looked at me like, what? And she's so pleasant. She was genuinely confused. She's like, I don't understand what you're talking about. And I was like, well, everybody knows, it was word on the street, you can't have more than 3 C-sections. And she's just looking at me like she's scratching her head. She's like, I'm sorry, come again. I've literally never heard of that. And I was like, oh, and I was starting to feel a little uncomfortable. I was like, well, everybody I've ever talked to, other moms, right? Not a medical person at all who has any kind of medical background, had said, well, you can't have more than 3 sections, right? It was just sort of an assumption. So I asked her, and she's like, I've never heard of such a thing, like on a personal level. And she's like, and it's not taught in medical school. And I was like, really? I'm talking. So here's what she shared with me. She's like, first of all, the number of C-sections you have depends on a couple of factors. It depends on how you heal. She says scar tissue, because they always do the same. People always ask me, do they do the same line? Yeah, they go through the same line outside. And no, I don't have a zipper, but that would be convenient. It's just that tech doesn't exist. So they go through the same sort of bikini line scar. And then when that's healing, she says the scar tissue becomes sticky. It becomes sticky and it adheres to other surrounding organs on the inside. So other surrounding organs might be like your bladder or your intestines, your bowels, the other things that are in that sort of space, the pelvic cavity. And she says, we want to make sure if we're going to be doing a C-section, if we're not pursuing a VBAC, then we want to go in, and these are her words, nice and calm, she said, so we're not slicing and dicing. She said, because if you do go into a preterm, like early labor with having had, in my case, 4 prior C-sections, she says the data that's available to see how a uterus would behave, like how the scar would behave under the pressure of, unmedicated labor, unaugmented is what I mean by that, like no Pitocin to increase it. She's like, there's just less and less data the more C-sections have been had, and especially if there's no history of a VBAC whatsoever. She's like, so, safety, which is, many doctors lean on the side of safety, and not all of them do it well, but I feel my doctor does. She said, so we want to go in there a little bit early, not too late. So for me, I'm a 38-week C-section. And she says, we go in when it's nice and calm so we can take our time and go in really careful, real slow, so that we're not slicing and dicing in an emergency situation where we need to get that baby out quick because you or baby's in any kind of, imminent danger. I was like, that makes sense. That resonated with me. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that, because obviously if like a bladder gets nicked or a bowel gets nicked, that's a whole other repair. And that's a whole other thing I'd like to avoid, especially if, like, for me, VBACs haven't proven to be successful. And there came a point, another talk for another day, when I simply chose I was more comfortable, and that was my personal, informed, consensual decision to stick to the road of C-sections. And just a heads up, like, everyone's got a position. Some people have very strong positions about this. I'm going to talk about it on Wednesday. So I would like to appreciate it if in the comments below, we don't necessarily get into any kind of heated debate about VBAC versus C-sections, because it can be a very emotional and personal topic. I will share more about that on Wednesday. So if you just keep that in mind, if you have a very passionate position, I appreciate where you're coming from. I also appreciate this group is a safe space where we can talk without attacking each other for our personal choices. That being said, it's all how you heal, she said, right? The sticky tissue, go in nice and slow. In Canada, and as far as I'm concerned, all of North America, there are no laws on the books or even medical advisories in medical schools, as to what my doctor told me, saying that you simply cannot legally or medically have a C-section after 3 as a general rule. And if you do choose the C-section, she says, go in it. We like to go in at about 38 weeks, depending, assuming it's a healthy pregnancy, healthy mom. There's no other contraindications. So they're not nicking any other organs in the process. And I was like, well, I was relieved to know it wasn't impossible or illegal or completely inadvisable for a generally healthy person with a healthy pregnancy. That was a huge relief to me to know, because I had chosen to embrace the blessing of children. And I knew that, but for the grace of God, I was going to have a cesarean road, as I call it, that it could be a long road of a lot of C-sections, an unusually lot of C-sections. I may be one of the only few people in like Ontario, let alone Canada, who's had this many C-sections. In some of the mom groups I'm part of, sometimes we'll say, hey, how many C-sections have you had? And I, when I'm facing C-section number 10 with baby number 11, I think I'm one of the few up at the top. It's not a contest. It's not like a badge of honor. If I could have had it another way, if I could have been in control of my, cervix dilating on time, even though I'd gone supremely overdue with every VBAC, yeah, I would have loved that, because VBACs are, in my opinion, ideal, right? They're safer from what I understand. But I'm on the C-section road, and I'm okay with that. I appreciated her honesty, her support, her care, and her respect. So here's the deal. Can you have more than 3 C-sections? Well, medically and legally, yes, you can. But talk to your doctor, because you may have unique factors that are totally different than mine, if that's something you're facing. If you would like to, connect more about topics like these, I don't always talk about C-sections. That's just like a slice of my life as a mom of many. But if you're a mom of many, 3+ kids, someone close to you, you really would like to connect more with a group of supportive, gracious Christian moms embracing the blessing of children, then I want to, extend my invitation. You're more than welcome to come on over to the Joyful and Confident Moms of Many group. I'm going to be zooming in on the C-section topic 2 more times this week, because I've got 2 more topics to talk about that I think are really helpful to moms facing, honestly, even just a second C-section, because it is a unique road and it can be fraught with a lot of pressure. So that group's available to be a support to other moms, whether that's you or someone that you love and care about. You can always pop them an invite or let them know about the group. And I'd love to meet them there, help encourage and equip other moms. That's what it's all about. And if my journey in C-sections is totally different than yours, that's okay. Like I said, I'm all about informed consensual choice and about respecting other people's choices, even if it's completely different than what I would have done and been comfortable with. I can respect that other people come to different conclusions than I do and walk this out in a different way. So I have gone on to have 9 more C-sections. I'm planning, like I said, number 10 for this December. Throws me off when I try to figure out the math, because it's 11 babies, but it's only 10 C-sections. I'm on the cesarean road, and I know it can be done. And at the same time, I also don't pressure women to follow in my footsteps and kind of give them a report card without meaning to, that if they don't do what I did, there's something wrong with them. Let's talk about that on Wednesday, shall we? Because the pressure, I know there's pressure sometimes in the medical community, but you know where it can be worse? From your friends. We'll talk about that more on Wednesday. So I'll see you over there. Have a great week. God bless you.